The 2025 Prophecy and the Advent of the World Teacher. Introduction to a project of the Lucid Trust and the Theosophical Society. Please find the book on the website of the Lucas Trust. The externalization of the hierarchy. The work of the externalized ashrams, the barest outline must here suffice. I have dealt with the proposed work of the externalized ashrams at some length in the foregoing pages and also in several of my other books, Letters on Occult Meditation, Letters 8 and 9. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire, pages 747 to 760. A Treatise on the Seven Rays, Volume 5, The Rays and the Initiations, and a more detailed presentation will not be possible at this time. The approaching externalization will bring about an increased stimulation which will necessarily affect disciples and aspirants and will involve a period of adjustment to this higher vibration. Adjustment to the increased livingness will be facilitated by the enunciation of certain basic statements for the guidance of disciples. Aspirants and people of goodwill, specifically, the externalized ashrams will be active along four major lines. 1. Creating and vitalizing the new world religion. 2. The gradual reorganizing of the social order, an order free from oppression, the persecution of minorities, materialism and pride. 3. The public inauguration of the system of initiation. This will involve the growth and comprehension of symbolism. 4. The exoteric training of disciples and of humanity in this new cycle. Meanwhile, what is it that you, my brothers, must do in this interim period? What is your work and your goal? Let me emphasize one or 2 points. The material goal which all who love their fellow men and serve the hierarchy must ever have in mind, and at 701, heart, is the defeat of totalitarianism. I do not say the defeat of communism, but the defeat of that evil process which involves the imposition of ideas, and which can be the method of the democratic nations and of the churches everywhere, just as much as it is the method of the USSR. This we call totalitarianism. I would ask you to have this distinction clearly in your minds. Your material goal is the defeat of all that infringes human free will and which keeps humanity in ignorance. It applies equally to any established system, Catholic or Protestant, which imposes its concepts and its will upon its adherents. Totalitarianism is the basis of evil today. It is found in all systems of government, of education. It is found in the home and in the community. I refer not here to the laws which make group relations sound, possible and right. Such laws are essential to community and national well-being and are not totalitarian in nature. I refer to the imposition of the will of the few upon the total mass of the people. The defeat of this undesirable tendency everywhere is your definite material goal. Your spiritual goal is the establishing of the kingdom of God. One of the first steps towards this is to prepare men's minds to accept the fact that the reappearance of the Christ is imminent. You must tell men everywhere that the masters and their groups of disciples are actively working to bring order out of chaos. You must tell them that there is a plan, and that nothing can possibly arrest the working out of that plan. You must tell them that the hierarchy stands, and that it has stood for thousands of years, and is the expression of the accumulated wisdom of the ages. You must tell them above all else that God is love, that the hierarchy is love, and that Christ is coming because he loves humanity. There are many other questions arising in the minds of my readers, and the less advanced they are, the greater the questioning and the greater the emphasis upon the materialistic, and therefore non-important, aspects of this entire subject. With them I have no intention of dealing, though I know well what they are, and so does AAB. They are of no vitality, and will answer themselves in due time. When the task of the preparation of men's minds is further advanced, when the knowledge of the existence of the masters and their hierarchical endeavor and of the united hierarchy of our planet are a commonly recognized truth, and when active goodwill is recognized as a real national asset in all lands, then the speed of the externalization of the hierarchy will be greatly increased. Then the 5 spiritual centers will begin to take definite form, and will call also for recognition. The groups they're working will be known, and they will also be in close touch with each other. From that time on, the network of initiates and disciples under the direction of the masters will be worldwide. And in every field of human expression, the opinion of these men and women, and of the masters presiding at the 5 centers and in their affiliated groups, will be regarded as of immense value by all governmental, economic, and social organizations. Then, under a great wave of spiritual inspiration, the divine spirit of expectancy for the reappearance of the Christ will sweep through the world. It will then be regarded as credible and creditable, and his coming will provide the germ for all world hope. The reason for this will be that the most respected, enlightened, and cultured people on the planet will be looking for him. And then, my brothers, he will come, bringing new energies of love and compassion and implementing the spirit of fresh enlightenment. 699. These important events must also be added the new revelation for which all men wait and to which they will be able to respond, owing to the needed and new stimulation. Many who are reading this section of my instructions will be disappointed. So futile and silly is the human mind in so many cases. Because I do not choose to consider now the means whereby the members of the hierarchy will adjust themselves to modern living conditions, as to what food they will eat and whether they will marry or not marry. The searchlight of the hierarchy is sweeping the planet at this time, singling out men and women, here and there, from the mass of men. They indicate esoteric possibility, and in their lives love of humanity and love of the Christ is a basic and fundamental factor. The ordinary devoted person, who constantly pledges and dedicates himself to the Christ or to the masters in a spirit of adoration, will not be chosen for this specific training. Their own attitudes and development come violently, 696, between them and their objective. The man who forgets about himself, and who is more interested in helping unhappy human beings, but who is nevertheless staunchly convinced of the factor of the unseen worlds, is the man for whom search is at this time being made. When these men and women are found, the work of the discovering initiate is to see to it that information comes to the aspirant in some form or another anent the hierarchical plan, concerning the reappearance of the Christ, under some name familiar to the aspirant's religious background, and about the fundamental and needed occult truths, with particular emphasis upon the law of cause and effect, and secondarily upon the law of rebirth. The law of cause and effect is of far greater importance than the law of rebirth, because it necessitates action upon the part of the aspirant, and that action inevitably conditions the future. There is nothing he can do about the law of rebirth but submit to it and be grateful that opportunity continues to present itself. As regards the many other adjustments which members of the hierarchy in all their many differing grades will have to make in what might be called their personality lives and habits, I have naught to say. I know well the questions which will arise in your minds, and I would like to touch upon one or two of them. For instance, some of you are asking, 1. How will these members of the hierarchy in their various grades appear on earth? Will they come through the methods of ordinary birth, of childhood and maturity? Some initiates may follow this ordinary pattern. Some are already passing through it today and are in the stages of infancy and adolescence. To them will be given a large share of the preparatory work. Some will not pass through these relatively limiting phases, but will pass back and forth between the outer world and the world of hierarchical endeavor. They will be sometimes present in physical bodies and sometimes not. This method of activity will not be possible as long as, 697, the present rules of national and civilian identification, of passports and of drastic airport and seaport inspection are required by the authorities. Such people as these, transiting initiates, would not be able to identify themselves. This form of appearance is therefore postponed for some time. Some of the masters will create what is called in the language of the East the Maya Virupa, a vehicle of expression which is built of atomic physical and astral substance and of concrete mental substance. This they can create at will, use at will and cause to vanish at will. Their problem is not, therefore, so acute in the matter of appearing and of reappearing as is that of the initiate who cannot thus create to suit his purpose and his service. 2. Will all the members of the hierarchy make their appearance at the same time? Certainly not. The appearing of these initiates and masters will begin with isolated members appearing and living among men, coming forth one by one, doing the required work, returning through the portals of apparent death to the inner subjective ashram, and then again appearing by one or other of the methods mentioned above. This process has been going on for some time and began around the year 1860. The work of these disciples in the human consciousness is already being recognized, and already they have succeeded in changing the consciousness and the thinking of many millions. Their ideas are already permeating world thinking. I would remind you also, for your encouragement, that I myself am among this number of working initiates, for, in the last analysis, that is all that any master is, and that I, from my physical anchorage, i.e., my physical body and my location in northern India, and in collaborating with a disciple, A.B., and also with F.B., have done much to bring certain concepts, old and yet new in their presentation, to the consciousness of humanity. I have also done much to stimulate from latency to potency the instinctual goodwill of men. I mention this for this is not a unique achievement. There are many other masters who, with their 698 disciples, are to be found today actively functioning in human affairs and struggling, under adverse conditions, to change the trend of human thinking from a frank materialism to a genuine spiritual aspiration. The study of this science of applied purification is one which is engrossing the attention of all the ashrams at this time, disciples in the first ray ashram, in the second ray ashram and in the seventh ray ashram, are peculiarly active along these lines, for the destruction of evil is the work of the first ray, and in so destroying its effects purity is achieved, the fostering of good then becomes possible and is the work of the second ray of the builders, and the bringing of spiritual energy into contact with substance, and consequently with matter, is the unique work of the seventh ray because it is now in manifestation. The rays which are active and in manifestation at this time and in this cycle are there in conformity to the plan and in preparation for the externalization of the hierarchy and the reappearance of the Christ. These rays are particularly involved, and therefore the initiates and th. The work of these disciples in the human consciousness is already being recognized, and already they have succeeded in changing the consciousness and the thinking of many millions. Their ideas are already permeating world thinking. I would remind you also, for your encouragement, that I myself am among this number of working initiates, for, in the last analysis, that is all that any master is, and that I, from my physical anchorage, i.e., my physical body and my location in northern India, and in collaborating with a disciple, A.B., and also with F.B., have done much to bring certain concepts, old and yet new in their presentation, to the consciousness of humanity. I have also done much to stimulate from latency to potency the instinctual goodwill of men. I mention this for this is not a unique achievement. There are many other masters who, with their 698 disciples, are to be found today actively functioning in human affairs and struggling, under adverse conditions, to change the trend of human thinking from a frank materialism to a genuine spiritual aspiration. The study of this science of applied purification is one which is engrossing the attention of all the ashrams at this time, disciples in the first ray ashram, in the second ray ashram and in the seventh ray ashram, are peculiarly active along these lines, for the destruction of evil is the work of the first ray, and in so destroying its effects purity is achieved, the fostering of good then becomes possible and is the work of the second ray of the builders, and the bringing of spiritual energy into contact with substance, and consequently with matter, is the unique work of the seventh ray because it is now in manifestation. The rays which are active and in manifestation at this time and in this cycle are there in conformity to the plan and in preparation for the externalization of the hierarchy and the reappearance of the Christ. Having discovered such people, their next step is to subject them to a process of training in telepathic susceptibility, so that they will be sensitive to hierarchical impression. At the same time, their intuition will require stimulation, but, as the intuition is useless and inaccessible without a high-grade intelligence, all these people must be sought for upon mental levels. The possession of the abstract mind is not sufficient. It is useful, in that it guarantees the ability of the aspirant to construct the antikarana. it is nevertheless quite possible to possess a well-developed abstract consciousness and yet to be quite devoid of all intuitive perception. For example, this is the major limitation of Z. He is a sound abstract thinker and they are somewhat rare, being, usually impractical idealists. He is not, however, the least intuitive as yet. He could easily be, given certain needed surrenders. Basically speaking, the intuition is not the revealer of esoteric truths. They come along another line of spiritual perception. The intuition is essentially the organ of group perception and that which eventually elevates the personality to its rightful position as the agent of the soul in the group. 695, Z, has a sound theory as to group attitudes and group work, and he will be exceedingly surprised at these comments of mine. But, as long as he insulates himself from warm group contacts and fails to seek, in the name of service, the love of the group, and as long as he fails to recognize error and his own part in any current mistakes whenever they occur, and as long as he transfers responsibility to others when he is himself to blame, he will fail to register intuitive information, because his personality reactions will intervene. He must not be deceived by the fact that people like him on the platform, that is group work, but not essentially working with the group. He must learn that at present he is the onlooker at the group and as yet not a part of it, and that he is primarily focused on delivering the goods, if I may use your American phrase, to his personality and its acclaim, and not to the group. This will be hard for him to realize and he must be given time. He wants to make good, spiritually and esoterically, but needs to grasp the fact that this is done through love and understanding and not through the intellect. He is insulated by his own strong desire to make good, according to his own theories and to his personality, thus proving to himself the grasp his soul may have over that personality. This creates barriers, but the insulating and separating wall between him and his co-workers is very thin and could easily be rent in twain. If his pride would permit and if he would descend to a recognition of equality with all the group with whom he is associated, and with the most unimportant members of that group, this he does not yet do, in spite of what he believes about himself.